Okay, so if I'm sounding robotic, I'm reading this off around 3:48 p.m. on February 26, 2025. After being up for nearly 18 hours, I will have a channel update that I was planning to get added first before this, but time is short and I need to pick my battles, so visuals will be particularly similar for the most part, as much as I am able. Alright, so I'm going to try and do this in parts of recording because, well, I've been doing that up until now. Okay, so I guess the basics of my predictions and so on and so forth. The first part that I would have to say I'm absolutely, I think that much like Whether You Like It or Not, Let's Go was to sort of, what's the word? Get us used to the idea, even though it wasn't very successful, of a game that doesn't allow you to catch all of the Pokemon, or at least have all the Pokemon in one game. And that has been the thing that has happened ever since then. In that same way, I think that Pokemon ZA is not going to be, in essence, it's not going to be a single game. I believe that Pokemon ZA is actually going to be a 2-in-1, like we've been getting essentially with the expansion passes. And I believe even further from there that what they're going to do is basically they're going to have to do two stories that happen at different points and whatnot, and from there different timelines, basically. Because before I get to that, I guess, because it's quite the thing to make, but it's based on a few different things, but the biggest thing that it's based off of is going from holograms to the drawings and whatnot, and yet it still seems to be with the same company that seemingly on one hand says Quasar, but I'm doubtful on that question. Even if I'm not sure I 100% believe it, even though, I don't know, looking at it definitely says Quasar. But then again, maybe that's just a coincidence, and deliberately so by Game Freak, I'm not really sure. But the main thing that I really think is that basically we are going, this year is just going to be a complete stall out for the next big region. And what they're going to do is they're going to have essentially Pokemon Z, and then a month after that they're going to have a Daybreak style update, which is going to do the stuff that basically the Daybreak did. And then later in the month, like an expansion pass, they're going to release Pokemon A, for lack of a better word. And then a month after that, they're going to release the Daybreak update for that. And what I think, based off of what they did for the Indigo Disc, because the Indigo Disc, whether you know it or not, is completely digital only. Even if you buy the physical copy, because the physical copy released before the Indigo Disc was the thing, that's something you're going to have to download. And seemingly that's not going to be too much of an issue in the short term, because it seems like you're going to be able to download it on a Switch 2, even if the Switch 1 gets discontinued. I could be wrong about that, but it kind of seems like that's where they're going with that. And I don't see why they wouldn't do that. Now, of course, especially because the implication, because it's one thing if you were doing this for the entire goddamn region. Okay, yeah, that's probably not going to fucking happen. But if instead what they were doing was going to be... If instead what they were going to do, come on brain, work. If instead what they were trying to do were to focus on Lumiose City, and it's referred to as Lumiose is the stage of the setting and so on and so forth, then it becomes a lot more likely that that's what they're going to do. And of course, then we get into the symbology, I suppose, of the logo of the Z, if I'm not mistaken, going through the little thing, the little hole, or the triangular hole or whatever. I don't think it's a triangular hole on the logo. The Z going through that, and if to say they're intersecting, which makes sense because what was the X and Y standing for, at least by the time X and Y was released? It's the intersection of X and Y, the X-Y axis, and stuff like that. So them intersecting makes sense from there, and the idea that these stories are connected in that way, shape, or form makes sense from there as well. But the big thing for me that I think, because once again, if they focus on one area and basically, because here's what I really wonder, because it's Pokemon Legends Z through A. What does that actually mean other than time is actually going to go by? Is it that you're going to have quote-unquote Pokemon Z and Pokemon A, or is essentially time going to actually go by? In other words, because there's on one hand, you've got people saying, the people leaking saying that Legends ZA was actually supposed to come out this year and was delayed for whatever reason. If it was delayed, the thought that occurs to me is it was because of the remake of Harvest Moon Wonderful Life, or as it's now called, Story of Seasons is what the freaking series is called now, if I can just find this without having any problems. Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, came out before we get into when it was presumably, I can't remember off the top of my head if it was being advertised the year before or what, but the game itself off. Come on, motherfucker. Load, you son of a bitch. Okay, of course, this is where we start having fucking problems. But, okay, so it was released in Japan on January 26, 2023. So, and it was released here in June 23rd of 2023. Now, obviously, if it was going to be released this year, that would be kind of weird. But on the other hand, you also have to ask the question, how long would it take? But basically, what it seems to me is basically because, well, I was going to say building a new city, but they're redeveloping Lumiose into, like, they're repurposing it so it's a place where people and Pokemon can live. And there are people that seem to be convinced that Lumiose City isn't that, and that, oh, this is going to be a future game, and that, well, the Legends game doesn't have to be some game that relies on the past and so on and so forth. Even if that were true, even if we were to argue that the Legends game can actually be utilized for urban legends, I wouldn't want that. I want us to learn more about the history of each region, and us going into the future, even, like, especially because if it's to be believed, we would be going only slightly further in, because the implication is Sycamore is going to have some big thing and so on and so forth that's related to this, in which case we're not even like a century after X and Y, and so it's like, oh, like, is there anything particularly interesting at that point in time to get into? But I could also see it starting out that way because of Scarlet and Violet, because the implication is you have all these Pokemon that you could suddenly find and stuff like that, that after Briar gave you her copy of the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero. And as she said, she's planning on bringing the Terrestrial phenomenon to other regions. And so the implication is the various Pokemon that you find, even though quote-unquote Snackworth made it when he was much younger and stuff like that, are a result of Briar bringing this to other regions. In fact, it seems like this is the explanation for various futuristic Pokemon in Violet, that she brought the Terrestrial phenomenon to those regions where those Pokemon would be expected, such as Unova. But one of those regions, and Unova was one of those regions because of fucking Reshiram, but I can't remember off the goddamn top of my head, is Xerneas and Voltalor one of those Pokemon? I don't think they are, but I'd have to check. But I could understand, well, because I think the way that it was framed is you're like on a train or something like that when it happens, and it's my argument, without getting into the specifics, because it's going to sound crazy on the surface of it, that is how Ingo ended up in the past in the first place, is because he's a subway director, or he's a subway guy, and the Terrestrial phenomenon goes underground and spreads out and so on and so forth. Whether it's spread out specifically from Blueberry Academy is an entirely different issue, but her wanting to bring it to the other parts of the region and that resulting in Ingo ending up in the past via that and not just coming back to it, seemingly in the same way that both Keith, to some degree, and Sada and Turo did in the Indigo Disc part of it, I guess, after you brought Terrapagos to the Crystal Pool, I believe it was. So, yeah, I have to specifically check what Snackworth has to because, like, I know for a fact some of the Pokemon that did show up were Calyrex and fucking... So, yeah, you've got Solgaleo, you've got Lunala. Kalos, there's not really any reason to think Kalos, because you don't have because they don't have that many legendaries to begin with, and there's no particular reason to necessarily believe that the Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres are from Kalos, so I'm not really sure. It's definitely 50-50 if that's to mean anything, although I seem to slightly... No, I was thinking wrong for a second there. So, it could just be that you, because of the Terrestrial phenomenon, end up in Kalos, but the thing is, if that were the case, then we have to at least consider the possibility that the Terrestrial phenomenon, for whatever reason, would be in the past. It does occur to me that there is a way for that to work, and that, of course, would be seemingly the crystals that were taken from Area Zero by, seemingly, the man who would presumably have been from Heath Steam. But excuse me, that was from supposedly long ago or something like that. It is not just 200 years ago. My bad. Bullshit. Anyways, the localization, sometimes I swear. I'm pretty sure I've already made it clear a number of years back, my love-hate relationship with the frickin' thing, but whatever. It could be that, because my guess, if I were to speculate, that the first thing that this is going to be is, like, the first half of this is going to be a build-up towards a Legends game in Unova, because there's really no way to look at this and go like, oh, it's such a coincidence to sit here and say, oh, Heath came back 200 years ago, but that has nothing whatsoever to do with the ultra-rich family buying the fucking Liberty Island, which just so happens to have Victini. And oh, by the way, there's this kid that says that, according to this book, Village Bridge was made 20 200 years ago. And it's like, what's the connection? The answer would be, again, a Legends game in the Unova region. Victini, as much as I wish Meloetta, because, and he could possibly get both, depending on how they want to go about it, I suppose. But as much as I wish a Meloetta would be the Pokemon that they would focus on, but once again, it could be both. Victini makes more sense just because V-Power is the way that you would get Noble-styled Pokemon, just for the just to go off of what Legends Arceus built up in terms of the gameplay loop, I guess. What are you doing for the main game and stuff like that? It just seems like that's the sort of thing that they're going to think of. And they have, if you really think about it, they have all the pieces to try and make that to do that with all these other Pokemon and so on and so forth in all the other regions if they really wanted to. For example, like, it's never outright stated that the energy that Mega Rayquaza took from Ground and Kyogre was put into the orbs. Obviously, at some point or another, it eventually did, but initially, the idea that it was put into other Pokemon, and those Pokemon could be Noble-style things, challenges, whatnot, is a possibility that would make sense. Another one would also be basically Illumina Pokemon for Xerneas in the Kalos region. Whether that's going to be a thing at all within ZA is an entirely different issue, but in an actual, hey, we're traveling the old Kalos region and so on and so forth, yeah, that would make sense. And the other thing is the implication of them using various things to imply, like, when the games actually take place. I've already made this argument, but I'll make it very simple. Legends Arceus, by the time it was released, certainly by the time Scarlet and Violet was out, takes place around 500 years ago. Obviously, it was about, like, if we're to believe the bit from the Terra leak that it was about 150 years ago, that might have been the initial plan or something like that, but eventually they changed it. And the reason I am very clear on this is, number one, we know it's not ancient times because you have various things like, you have Lavington saying that the ancient writings from other regions are what the unknown look like, or something along those lines. And even in the Japanese version, if you punch that shit into Deep Hell, you still have that thing. So it's not ancient times. Furthermore than that, the fact that you can get the the medicine and it's stated in the description to be from Cianwood or a pharmacy in Cianwood or Tanaba in Japanese means, yeah, it's around 500 years ago. At the very least, that's already happened. That is the maximum. It has to be around 500 years ago that Legends Arceus takes place. However, that doesn't mean it can't take place earlier on its own. Fair enough. However, because you could go through a number of other things, Scarlet and Violet is the thing that finally states, yeah, it's around 500 years ago. Why? Because of what Ryfort's board says. If you've never seen Ryfort's digital board, you can see on the left side, you can see a drawing of some fucking building. You can see a picture of Lavington. You can have it associated with a picture of the old Apicorn balls with the metal latch. Connected to that is, I wouldn't call it a bird's eye view of fucking Sinnoh because it's not top to down. It's kind of not, it's obviously from the air or whatever, but yeah, it's clearly Sinnoh. And if you had to have any speculation on, oh, well, that can't possibly be, well, okay, right next to it, of course, it's connected from there. What is clearly supposed to be Galaxy Hall, Galarian, Wheezing, Chimney and all, and of course, Mount Coronet in the background. Yeah, okay, that is absolutely what it's referring to. No question about that. That makes sense to me at this point in time, at least. I haven't really had anyone push back on that with their own arguments, if serious or otherwise, honestly. And on the other end, on the right side of it, you have the Pokeball, you have specification on the button of the Pokeball, then the Great Ball, then the Ultra Ball. Okay, what does this timeline fucking mean? Well, the question is, what exactly is the scale of it? Because it's really weird. Like, you have like 3 little labels. I don't even know what they're supposed to mean, because it's like the middle label can't fucking mean, it might mean, I don't know, it's too short to seem to me like middle, but I don't really know, though, to mean middle, but it can't mean present, because there's no way, like, it wouldn't make sense. And then you have, apparently for whatever reason, you have like 5 different little things that connect to circles with minuses in them, and I don't know what that means. So it's hard to really break it down from there. But if we're trying to make any sort of thing, because like in the middle of this quote-unquote timeline, you have them like lined up with one another. In fact, like, I had to take a fucking picture of this with my fucking Switch to know, to just remind myself and so on and so forth. Okay, so yeah, so you have like one of these fucking minuses in a circle or whatever between the first 2 black labels that have Galarian, I guess it would Paldean, I guess. Whatever, the Paldean Galarian alphabet that they share. And that seemingly Kalos also shares, but we'll get to that. And then you have, in the middle of the 2 labels, you have 2 circles with minuses, and then between the final label, you have it between 2 of those circles with minuses. Again, it's very hard to really understand what exactly is being stated here. However, let's try our goddamn fucking best, because what might be the best way to explain it is basically you have, for whatever reason, you have the minuses being spans of time that line up with one another. And the reason there are 5 of them, if I'm understanding this right, this is just my guess, I guess, is one lines up with this big span of time that apparently is before this building was made with the fucking drawing of it, seemingly. And then you have this tiny little speck of time that's right close to one another. And then you have the third one connecting all the way to the fourth one, and then the fourth one connecting to the fifth one. If I'm to try and understand it, it might be because of the labels going on. Once again, I don't know what the fuck these labels actually mean. And unfortunately, there's a page where people are trying to decipher the Galarian and other languages and so on and so forth, the Pokemon world. They have nowhere at any point explained, hey, this is what this seems to fucking mean. So they haven't gone around to it or updating it, and yeah, unfortunately. So basically, if I had to come up with a possibility to make sense of all this, especially because for whatever reason, next to both of the Pokeballs, you have these big minuses in fucking sideways ovals. So I'm not particularly certain what these minuses are supposed to mean. Hell, for whatever reason with the Pokeball specifically, the quote-unquote modern-day Pokeball, there seems to be like a gap between, like, so you have 2 different minuses in the oval. I don't know if that means anything or if it's just the angle that's at and there's issues or whatever happening on screen when this picture was taken. I'm not really sure. But if I had to guess, the first 2 minuses are the encompassing of whatever that second label means. And the third and fourth minuses are actually supposed to be what connect for this third label. Once again, whatever it fucking means. And then the fifth minus is supposed to be basically the modern era. The era that Rhyhorn would basically say it's basically a present day or something like that. And basically serves the same purpose as the first minus in a circle, once again, for those who are hopefully not confused, but for those who are, is everything before that. So once again, what the fuck is this timeline actually referring to? Well, based off of everything, based off what we're learning and so on and so forth, if I had to guess, I would say that this is actually a timeline of the last 805 years. Because, as we learned from Rhyhorn early on, well, later on, I suppose, the design of Uva/Naranja Academy the Pokeball design was added later on. And so, I think that drawing is actually supposed to be Naranja/Uva Academy. And that would make sense considering what we're learning and so on and so forth. So, the idea that people come in not really understanding, like, what half of this is supposed to mean, but as they go through the class, connecting the dots and so on and so forth, it would make sense. The second thing is, according to Rhyhorn, despite her wishing that they could go back into the past after learning so much and so forth, she states, well, that's against the curriculum, and either A, I don't want to get yelled at, or B, I don't want to risk my job. I don't know which. But that's the implication of one of those 2 implications of nothing else. So, for me, that means that you have to, like, in order, because it's not against the curriculum, this is supposed to be read from past to present. Yeah, I think that's a fair assertion to make, if nothing else. So, the question is, what is the timescale of all this? Well, if I am correct that, because then you have to ask the question, like, because as far as I can tell, I could be wrong about this, but as far as I can tell, the first 2 circles and minuses are towards the middle. So that would be around 402 years before Scarlet and Violet. And of course, on the first period that they're talking about, that of course, between the first 2 minuses is the Apricorn Ball, the picture of Lavington, the picture of whatever the fuck of Sinnoh, and of course, Galaxy Hall with Mount Coronet in the background. Now I'm looking at, I think Yeah, it's kind of blurry, but you can still see the imprints of the chimney, of the Galarian Wheezing Chimney. So yeah, and so this is important because once again, because before I'd really broken this down and stuff like that, painfully so to try and make sense of it. My argument would have basically been, okay, there's like 3 breaks if you really want to think about it, and either A, you've got like, it could be broken down as basically 403 years in the past or something like that, and then the next break would be 201, or it would be 603 to 301 or over, stuff like that. And either way, Legends Arceus has to take place over 402 years at the very least, because of the order of the breaks and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call these circles with minuses in them, folks. And at that point, because like, if you go on to Bulbapedia, and at first I think I uploaded the thing and thinking to myself, oh, I must have imagined it. No. If it wasn't on there at the time, it's absolutely on there now. You can go on to Bulbapedia. I'm going going to fucking go on to Bulbapedia right now, if only for my goddamn fucking paranoia, because, like, I don't know, maybe it's about to fucking show yet again that it's not there. But if you go on the history of the Pokemon world, and I think maybe that's because I was looking in the goddamn wrong place. You go to the history of the Pokemon world, and you go to, yep, here it is. According to Spiritomb's Pokedex entry in Pokemon Pearl and Shining Pearl, it was bound to an odd keystone 500 years ago, and Vesta states in Legends Arceus that Spiritomb was sealed hundreds of years ago, implying at least 200 years, meaning the game takes place at most 300 years. No, it doesn't! I can understand why initially they might think that. But as of Scarlet and Violet, that is bullshit! Legends Arceus, I argue, takes place 500 years before Magearna was made. Because Magearna is a Pokemon that is designed. It was constructed to be able to take on the shape of a Pokeball. It had the red top and whatnot in its original colors. And its fucking shiny form has the color scheme of an Ultra Ball with the golden waves and so on and so forth. And of course, Ultra Balls are in Legends Arceus. So yes, I'm waiting to hear actual fucking arguments of why I'm wrong here. But right now, it seems like I'm right, even if my fucking way about going about explaining it can seem kind of fucking sloppy because of this goddamn fucking tongue. I swear. Anyways, so yes, Legends Arceus takes place around 500 years ago. In fact, I dare to say, even though it doesn't really make sense with the way it's described, especially in the Japanese version, where it says, 500 years ago, I did something terrible or whatever the fuck, so bad I think it was, that I got bound to a keystone or something like that, or to the keystone, because for whatever goddamn reason, the Japanese version uses the a lot when talking about specific things. I don't know what that's about, but whatever. So, I'd have to basically go over the specifics beyond that, but basically, yeah, Legends of Arceus takes place around 500 years ago, whether this was the original intention or not. And I think this is worth talking, like what they originally intended, I think is worth talking about in a different avenue that I don't have till the fucking 25th to get this fucking video done, and it is the 15th right now, and it's about to be the 16th because it's 11:55. Oh, yeah. Anyways, I feel like this is where I just go into the fucking audio to remember my goddamn fucking place. But basically, it seems to me like Legends Arceus is actually the originator of that dex entry. Even if the Spiritomb that you seal away in Legends Arceus is not the same Spiritomb that reappears at the Ravage Path, or not the Red Patch, the Ravage Tower, or whatever the fuck it's called, actually. Hold on. Spiritomb, what the fuck, is found at the Hollow Tower. Okay. Don't know why I kept thinking Ravage for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of the fucking crack in the fucking thing. But whatever. I don't know. Maybe the answer is in Legends Arceus? Crimson Mirelands, Shrouded Runes. Yeah, I don't know why I got that fucking wrong, but whatever. But anyways, without getting into a big fucking spiel about the Pokemon timeline, because it's a very complex fucking thing, it might be that our character ends up in college from the present day because of the terrestrial phenomenon, because of Heath and so on and so forth, because it seems very much like Heath is going to be the one who inspires, like, it seems like the events of Legend Z, I guess, quote unquote, will be what inspire Heath to go to the Unova region and try to complete the Pokedex there and stuff like that. And that seems to be, like, it's one way or the other, I guess. Either A, there's going to be some task where we catch a Conkeldurr, or there's going to be a different task, and these are basically side quests for those who are either not familiar or don't remember. That's what they are called in Legends Arceus. That they could just have a mission where you're supposed to make something that gives a Conkeldurr the means in order to construct fucking the village bridge, because in Black and White, I'm pretty sure, you had the old man who stated that his great whatever fucking grandfather helped make the bridge, and he specifies that he made it with a Conkeldurr. So, or Conkeldurr? I don't know. But, whatever. So, that would be the connection. And in which case, like I speculated earlier before, Professor Heath is basically the professor and might take on a role similar to Kamado in possibly being a little more antagonistic, but we don't know. So, I wouldn't, because, like, so that might be the way that they make it work, but it's also the question of, like, how much would you really need of the terrestrial phenomenon in order for a character to get linked in that sort of way, the same way that Ingo potentially was. Don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll have to wait and see. But that would make sense that it's basically a prequel to that game. Legend Z, at the very least, would. This is without us getting further into other things, I suppose. I really have to edit this shit down. Yeah, I'll come back to this. I think that I know that there's certain things I want to get, but the best way to formulate them, or the best avenue next, is what may be questionable. But it is the question. I think that I can think of something that I I might have skipped over that's worth clarifying, but yeah, this would seem like the thing. Oh, I think it was. The thing that I'll end before going over this stuff is the idea that seems to be that the rest of the region comes to us, and that like as our character potentially ages, because the whole thing about Pokemon that Junichi Masuda has been very defiant on and so on and so forth, but he's not there anymore, so is that Pokemon is the story of childhood and stuff like that. And so the possibility that you only go for like maybe 5 years or something like that, it really depends, I suppose, or maybe it's just 3 years, because supposedly your character is around 15 years old in Legends Arceus. There are some contestants, I suppose, although if you consider Pokemon Masters any level of canon, and I would say begrudgingly I'd be willing to agree with that. Ray and Akari end up meeting with Dawn and Lucas, and I do think they were basically the same height, so, But then you have to also account for how many years has it been and all that stupid nonsense. So I don't know if, like, the implication would be then, if we're to take any consistency whatsoever from Pasio, from Pokemon Masters, that it's been around 4 years or something like that since the events of Diamond and Pearl, BDSP, whatever. It'd probably be Diamond and Pearl or BDSP because of the way they dress, but I'm not sure. So, yeah. But not only that, that would be one thing, with your character actually fucking aging as time goes on, and basically having, like, a story that might be broken in some way, shape, form into actual chapters, instead of the way it is in Legends Arceus, where you don't know the exact specific amount of time that's really going by, and it's really just vibing on the question of days going by, you sleeping in your fucking things and stuff like that. Tents and whatnot. Tents, your bed, stuff like that. And where they specify, oh, it's been a day and like that, and a day has gone by since you've completed whatever mission that it might be and stuff like that in Legends Arceus. So, I don't know from there as well, but the thing that they could probably take beyond your character visibly aging, which would be the first thing that they would take, is the idea of people coming to the region and over time. Well, yes, people who are not from the Kalos region coming to the region, but also from there, the idea that people that you may or may not know, in the same way that happens with Wonderful Life, some characters that you've already met, but don't actually live there, come to live in Lumio City. Whether that's something they actually do or not, I'm not really sure. It kind of seems pie in the sky idea, but at the same time, given the timing, it makes sense, and more importantly, if that's where they're going for it, because once again, Z through A, what does that actually mean? Why did they name it that? And stuff like that. Especially with the intersection of the Y-axis and the X-axis and stuff like that. Like, why do they want these things to intersect, and what do they actually mean? Of course, again, the fact that they're focusing specifically on Lumio City is the sort of thing that gives it particularly plausible deniability until it's actually announced to be the thing, which I think they're probably going to announce it on Pokemon Day. Maybe not, but we'll see. And before then, I've got to do this fucking thing and go over what I've missed to edit down, and of course, add my 2 cents beyond that. Anyways, be back in a sec for me? Well, for you, yes. Okay, because it is the 25th, it is 11 p.m. 11:20, it's 17 p.m. And I need to try and get this thing done and uploaded in what will shortly be tomorrow. I'm going to be reading off of some cheat sheets to make this as fast as possible, or with the least amount of editing and stuff like that. Anyways, number 1, a potential reason for the game being broken into chapters may be the looker missions that even happen in Lumios. I can't end that sentence without it sounding unnatural to me. It's unclear if this will be broken up by years or not. Number 2, okay, this is a big one. Lavington is actually from Kalos, as the trailer seems to show it shares the same alphabet with Galar and Paldea. While Lavington in the Japanese version is clearly speaking in English at points, English is a Germanic language, thus originating from the continent. Kalos and Paldea are home to seas inhabited by Dragalga. I believe that's how you would say it. Dragalga? Pokemon that would corrosively melt any boats that would dare cross the channel to Galar. While it's debatable whether they existed at the time around the Isle of Armor, much like Alola, parts of Galar are indeed cold enough to allow people from there to go to colder and more northern regions like Hisui. Furthermore, in Violet, where you can catch both Clauncher and Klotzer around the West Paldean seas, in Scarlet, only Scrub can be found there. At which point, be it a stroke of luck or due to a concerted effort, the people of Porto Maranata are able to have both their fishing and import markets due to this. In a bout of fucking horrible goddamn luck, while I was typing up the fucking thing, the motherfucking thing said, hey, are you sure you want to fucking, delete this thing? And I said, no. What I should have done was cancel. And it did this because I was typing on the fucking internal fucking keyboard. I'm gonna grug this You will have the basic gist of what I want to fucking say, because the amount of editing, oh my god, just lost. Anyways. Pokemon like Lilligant not found in modern Sinnoh. Explain why no Capoeirja in modern Kalos. Capoeirja come over on now sunk land bridge from Kalos to Galar, then work with humans, while humans bring Capoeirja to Paldea. Chimney of Galarian wheezing, not Lavington idea. Florio, construction core from Galar, where her hometown muffin big fame. Rambler think Moral also live in same house, mean he and El Florio come from Galar. Ancestor of Kieran also pitch Gyarados statues. Idea shot down. Lavington not even see Chimney when come back from field, so what matters to him? T come to France first, just not his big fame. Mean Lavington probably always Kalos man. Game Freak try to save old lore. Magnemite on Alpha Ruins, TCG pave way for her one on Floette's side. And Sandy Shocks. Snap 64 pave way for legendary Galarian birds. Ranger Games pave way for ancient beast trio. Poke Euro calendars 22nd century. Briar suggests this, and Deep L claims Sandy Shocks article claim him Heath book from 20th century. Pokejap Eps calendar 21st century like us. Game Freak used this to save old lore dates. Probably used to save idea of France's biggest help to study Pokemon. Start late 18th century by Baron Tygeran, or start in 16th century with Lavington come from Kalos. Porygon still from 20 years back in 1995 of Japan. Most early time thanks to Infinity Energy. Else idea come along later. Number 3, if you can believe. X and Y's first set of games not too different in modern times, very different in old. Xerneas not found in Y even though Team Flare probably look in same place. Pokemon Y have similar past to New Snap, where Xerneas asleep in Lentil. Save region 2,000 years ago from Teller Meteorite. In X instead in Paldea where Conkeldurr live. Illumina energy fuel people, probably inspire Conkeldurr to teach make concrete. Xerneas probably die in Kitakami, probably northeastern land, high up, dragon cannot climb to prove. If Rambler right, ZA tale of two Lumioses. Heath team probably come back from crater or in Z. Part Terra energy play not know. Sada and Turo brought to time him after they die. So why not Heath team? Why not to not same world? Paldea unite due to Kalos. Whether Xerneas die 805 year ago, or Kalos king trying to take all 300 year ago. Academy formed after. It financed Heath team. Heath team from 300 year or before come back, like Urashimako from Legend of 5 Color Turtle. Terrapecos based on? Don't know. Heath team least come back in Z. Thus why happen? Rambler think this world where Lavington study at Academy and see Hisui decks complete. Much like Briar want prove Heath not liar, and Sada and Turo want make dream big cause as Heath book. Lavington child or children want make world where Pokemon and people live together in big peace. Dream cost money and lots people to believe. Pokemon Z take place in 300 years later. Her Lavington family go to other regions, catch Pokemon there, make real good, make people big like Pokemon. Rambler thing and company Macrocosmo. Clearly mean Macrocosm. What else from then? Result of taking all from the galaxy A18 core. And simple dream him of big peace in Hisui, make modern Pokemon world. Chairman Rose come from working in Galar mine to become president. Moved to Galar after Magnolia's paper on Dynamax like Sony in real world did, head from Japan to LA. Rose even state energy turned into electricity spread all over Galar. Company changed logo. Number 4. This wide higher galaxy team, run by Silene family. Pearl clan probably help. Worship Palkia. See what big good they can do. Bring big good from Hisui to more places. Not know all descendants, but Clay, Berg, and Bryson no brainer. Garrick say the same thing as Wolfric. Probably ancestor. Not know whether they're from Kalos or Unova. Not know if Nathan's Rose's dad. Quasar make big sense for a more company name if Silene from Hoenn. Argue Marlin one of Iskin and Paulina's family. Same Iskin hair color. Same type of water. Kyushin Axon aside. Marlin no from Hoenn because say in Emerald World. And probably no from Alola cause Mantine no in Sun and Moon. Mantine teach Marlin swimming trick. Probably from Sinnoh. Sunny Shore best idea. Use power of sun for big energy. East side of region mean less ozone. Trees to west don't matter cause planets rotate east to west. Route 223 probably bigger less ozone. Maybe explain Wickatan. Don't know. Pokemon Z give Heath big idea to unite Unova. Same way as seen in game. Unova probably in big war that make swords of justice avoid humans in black 1 and white 1. Unova legend game probably take place in Violet World so swords of justice remind Heath of drawing. Maybe inspire him to make book like C's legend but for Caldeo and in Nocrine library. Don't know. Pokemon A maybe around 104 year when terrestrial energy first found. About 150 year ago. Oh, lightning strike brass tower. Turn to burn tower. Old man say he was trainer then. Skivvy make Heart Soul Silver take place in Pokemon Y World, where Meteorite Nut makes Pseudopolis like Ruby and Sapphire. Rhyfort say people from 2,000 years ago less advanced. Arceus show us in world with embedded tower and Jade Orb to call Rayquaza, thus not Emerald World. That world had interstate, electric cable, and satellite. Till volcano erupt. Not world from future, world from past. And why Arceus, who made Palkia, Dialga, and Uxie, show us things that won't happen in Heart Gold and Soul Silver world. Event from 1,000 years ago after big Keystone Meteorite hit. Regigigas and Arceus drawing found in same place prove world still bound 1,500 year back. Kyogre energy turn into seawater and fill ocean to rise big. Weaken Regigigas ropes. Strong rain interrupting volcanoes give drifting continents big speed. Hisui and Johto crash within 500 year. Lava tree prove this. Probably planted by AZ, just like Pseudopolis tree 500 years later. AZ come over when Johto and Kalos still joined. Volcano erupt big and then split Johto from Kalos 805 year ago. Xerneas probably caught in middle. That why die very too soon. Without Lavington Pokeball invented by first Professor Westward in 1925. Prove this was in Poke Euro calendar, since Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon happened before 2015 in Japo calendar, not even 100 year ago. Pokemon A take place after 1925, probably in world Lavington not see Hisui Dex complete. World where Volo no born, because his ancestors die in big fight between Reshiram and Zekrom. No other time in 2,500 year ago than Darmanitan go sleepy. If Dragon no split hit at first, Unova split in two. Kyurem and probably split then. Probably eat humans like added in Black 2 and White 2. Brothers probably join sides and sons never start war. Thus Volo born. Volo no born? Arceus no bring us to past. Even in why Arceus bring us to past 500 year ago. Not know what accomplish, but logic follow. Other idea. 87 year before Skivvy Crater Research Station was made. Only other event was painting made about 80 year ago. Rhyfort suggest might be as much as 86 year ago. While maybe X and Y take place before Skivvy, Jubilife Village built 2 year before Legend Arceus, so maybe painting and research station connected, not know. Other than Pokemon A being game after Legend game in Johto, Rambler not know what else to say while time short. Thank you for put up with Rambler Grug talk. Till we see what Rambler actually got, and of course, what get very big wrong. Keep eye out for channel update.